My guest today is Ellis Bartholomeus. I hope I've said that correctly. She's a former colleague, and I esteem Ellis very, very much in her creativity, her body of knowledge that she's now bringing to us through play. Ellis is originally from the Netherlands, where she lives and she works as a game designer, as a teacher, as a researcher, as a movement practitioner, as she applies play as a life motto to engage, experience, and ultimately design the world around her. So welcome, Ellis, to Movement is My Constant.
Thank you. Thank you.
So to kind of create a bit of a setting here for our conversation today, your present work is, from what I understood also from the book, which we will talk about in a minute or two, your present work is strongly shaped by the past experiences of loss and of great inspiration from key figures throughout your life have brought you here today. I recently heard in a podcast how we actually write the books we wish we had read. And I feel like this book is also something like that, that it is a book that we wish we would have liked to read at some point in our lives. And I see from the book, you are bringing these concepts of play and game design into life. How can we apply play? It's like a toolkit for development, self-development, while interacting and engaging, learning. Exactly. So it is entitled Apply Play to Get Ahead of the Game. And it's really rich with insights and key concepts of play in each chapter. And there's enough challenges to understand the value of play. I also used it as a means to navigate through this conversation. And I liked how you gave us so many facets of play, whether it's for the mind, curiosity, or for the spiritual being, like playing and making questions. And but it can also be used as a physical exercise because, the challenges always make you move. So that was very interesting. And it comes in a really nice size. You can bring it anywhere, basically. So I really like it.
You're making me blush.
I thought about using the book as a navigation tool. So we're going to start at the beginner level to understand more about this. I guess one of my questions is, what does a game designer do? Or you, Ellis, as a game designer, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when I started designing games, I was not so much of a gamer myself or a player, but it was a little bit of a coincidence of making something on a website more interactive, and we decided to make users play with the content. It was for children, it was an educational website. So, and that really triggered me, because I did play games when I was a kid, of course, and I had been playing games, and I learned how to dissect games and game elements, and how to discover what are these ingredients that we use when we design games or when we play games, and how can we reuse these for to have an impact in developing interaction design. So I think a game designer is really looking at the tools he has at hand, similar as a normal designer, but a game designer has all these extra, and also a little bit alchemy, a little bit the ingredients that you cannot really put your finger on, but you try to use them and reuse them in different contexts to trigger your player to interact with it.
So you really learned by doing. That's what we designers do, right? You just applied your knowledge as questions arose, I guess.
Yeah. And we found out when we created games, some games we thought would be boring to play because we made serious games. And for instance, once we made a game about applying for a job, and we really thought it would be very hard to make that fun, but we were trying to make it a bit more fun. But in the end, our players played it a lot, and they were replaying it, and they were challenging each other, and they were really stretching the boundaries of applying for a job. And then also when we were testing our own game, we were having a lot of fun in testing already, and we were so surprised because we thought we would be delivering a boring game.
But was it boring because of the content or the context or the challenge?
A bit because of the context and the learning goals. They were a bit like how to write a proper application letter, and we thought like, yeah, it's a little bit. We thought that the learnings were flat, but then again, we made a career game, so there was a chain of reactions that were linked with each other. So you would learn all the time, like, oh, but if I would have done this, I would do this, and then so it was more complex than we thought. But also in a way, we game designers very often design interaction like a tree. So what if you do this, then you do this, and then you do this, but we always have to make sure that it comes back together to an end result, and you don't have a dead end on the end of the branch. So that's and that can make it complex or easy. And this game was making the choices made the player feel very competent, but also more competent to apply for a job.
Interesting. Okay, so I hear a lot of things. I already hear in the many chapters you have on your book, like references to the chapters of the book, making choices and also engagement, etc. And also, like you were just saying, creating the specific, like this recipe you have with the appropriate spices, and then you create the game that is needed for that context, in this case, the recruitment exercise. And also how you, how do you say this? Like you engage with the user where they are. They were exactly in that same context. So I guess there's no point in giving them too much and removing the context that they know they are. It's a recruitment process, right? So yeah. Interesting. So I mean, then I guess this kind of relates to a question that was a little bit further ahead, but I think we can introduce it here. What is play then? I mean, if you were concerned with, bringing fun to it, what is play?
Yeah, so this is also discussed by many philosophers, designers, economists, psychologists. So in many disciplines, they try to pinpoint what is a game or what is play. And I still think that Johan Huizinga, who wrote a book on the Homo ludens, the playing man or human, in 1938, he described the magic circle. The magic circle is, he described that if you are inside the magic circle, there are boundaries that don't exist and rules that don't exist in real life. So you're in a different situation that's separate from real life. And if you're in that magic circle, there is a situation of playing. And I think that that's the best description. So there's a magic circle, and in there you can believe something completely different. And which is so great is that in the magic circle, I can believe that I can outrun you or win from you. But in real life, I don't think I will win from you. There's no hierarchy. But in the magic circle, we can have these different game rules and sets that frame that situation, and I can believe those.
What are you playing right now?
Word feud.
Word feud. Oh, well, you mentioned that. What is it exactly? Can you explain?
It's actually the same game as Scrabble is. The board game Scrabble, the old-fashioned Scrabble game. You put words and you take turns and you try to get rid of your letters. And online it's called Word Feud. And you play it only with one other player. And for me, it has been my way to connect with my mom, playing Word Feud every day, putting in the work. But then she passed away last year. But I still have other friends who continue to play with me because I think they want to fill the gap of missing my mom.
That's really
So they
nice.
want to keep me occupied in making. But for me, it's also good because I'm dyslexic, and I like to keep playing with words and language in a playful manner, because it's easy for me to keep a distance because of my handicap.
Okay, interesting. So, and what would be the difference between play and game? Is there a difference, or do they combine?
It's a good that you say that, because actually I also know that in Portuguese, or in what I learned in Brazil from Portuguese, is that you have different you use different words for play and for game. And actually in English there are also more words, and they come also from Latin. But in general, game is more the noun. It is a game. And play is more the verb. I am playing a game. So it's more an activity of interacting with your game. That is what's called play.
Okay, that's interesting. Then where does that expression come? Like it's children's play or something, right? Or when you say something is really easy, you just say it's like playing like children.
It's sort of, it's so, because children learn so much in play and with games, that we know that that's actually the biggest way to learn. You have to play. But then again, we sort of tell ourselves to stop playing and stop being childish and become mature, because we have to be serious and we have to know instead of learn. And that's, I think, the biggest mistake of thinking that play is only for children, because I learned from my mom, aging that old, that she never stopped learning and never stopped being playful. And I think that's crucial, because we have to develop, and for development we need to allow failure. And that's one of the strong aspects that play holds in itself, to fail and to learn and to progress and develop.
Interesting.
And so it's just a game. That's I wish to abandon that in our language. And child play. Hooray for perpetual child play.
Nice.
How do you say?
Yeah, that's perfect. Exactly. So so I guess now here there's two questions, kind of two ramifications. One is play. Why are we afraid of play? And what makes it fear? Where does it come from? And the other one is really mostly about inspirations. You talk a lot about your mother, who seems like she has had this playful character in her, maybe some sort of openness to yes and maybe choose one of the questions.
I'll choose two, because my mom, the polarity and the fear is also entangled with my mom as an inspiration, because she was actually always very much a bit uptight and like, what will people think? So she was always holding herself quite strict, and also telling me to be serious. And she was very serious on many things, but only in the end of her life she became more playful. But so she dared a lot more at the end of her life, because she didn't have so much to lose anymore. At the end of her life, she was suffering Alzheimer, so she was letting go of all the boundaries. And that's what I like about play, is about not being not being constrained within the boundaries, although you're constrained in the make-believe game rules, but that allows you a lot of imagination and freedom to fail. Because in a game you can lose, and inside, when you're playing the game, you want to win, you're very engaged to win. But if you lose this exactly at that moment, it doesn't really matter that much, because next time you might win. And you also, in a weird way, you understand that someone else has to win to make the game be real and exist. So then you understand the economics of play, and you also have another commitment to the game rules, and trust that you might be the winner next time. So there's hope. And I think that that's very important, that hope is makes the world go around.
Exactly. Okay, cool. All right. So you were now saying something that caught my eye about also the playfulness, and it kind of relates to, I mean, in some ways it relates to violence in game, for instance. How do we, or, or anger, these difficult emotions that sometimes play can, trigger us because of losing a game or because of something, or a challenge. So what can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think many emotions are a taboo, and you're not allowed to be angry, you're not allowed to be violent, or malicious pleasure is a very bad emotion, or jealousy. But inside games, you can experience these emotions in a safe environment, and also see that they are temporarily, and you can overcome these. However, some people, when I talk about games, and they say, I never play games because I cannot deal with losing. I'm over competitive. But it's very interesting. Yeah, so you have to deal with your emotions, and staying away from them is not always the solution, and might even make it worse. So I think it's good if we expose ourselves to emotions in a safe environment, like a game can be, and then be able to reflect on it. And that's the interesting part, to talk together about what happened inside that game, or in that other game, and how come it got so bad. But the great thing is that for many games and violence, for instance, most of the people, it is an outlet only, and not a trigger.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was thinking now about. Okay, so a lot of the games, it's about entertaining. Oh, let's just, relax and just play something. But what you're saying now, it feels like, wow, it's much deeper, right? Or even giving space for reflection. Do games give that space in your view?
Yeah, but it depends on what game, but most of the time it is the context of the game being played. So it's a bit more in the hand of the player to reflect. I also don't want to force reflection, but it happens. And for instance, what we know, if we look at children playing games, we can often see that parents or the surroundings or the children themselves, they have to also deal with the emotions, like, it's my turn to sit on the bike,
right?
Or can I play with your toy? And all these things, those are adult lessons being taught and being learned. Actually, I like the word being taught or being learned, the active or passive way of learning. That I'm learning you something, or are we learning something together?
Do you find someone that is a little bit, how do you say it, resistant to play, or is it maybe a client or a situation of a workshop? How do you deal with that? Do they need much preparation, or?
A lot of preparation. You need to handle with care. No, it's nice. Most of the time when I give a talk and I try to discover who is the most resistant person, to really find out why is he resistant, and he can become like my how do you say, my in the ideal situation, I would put him in front of the class and tell him, let everyone look like, so what happens here? But the funny thing is, if I have an interaction with that person, I can ask, so what do you do in your free time? And very often they are very playful, but they didn't know that they are. So they didn't see in what way they are playful. And one person, for instance, said, I always go outdoors to hunt for those GPS treasure hunts.
Oh, Pokemon.
No, it's not a Pokemon. It's a little bit more. it's more physical, and you walk with your compass, and it has a word, but that's also, it's also a game. It's very playful.
Interesting.
And so I don't think people are really resistant. It's just finding out the language of how do you see play, or what do you think I mean when I talk about games and play. And then very often the dialogue it starts running by itself as soon as they know that I'm not only talking about Grand Theft Auto or those games. And then we find out that everyone loves to play games and loves to watch other people play games and have fun and interact with that. So, and then it's much easier. And also one time I was teaching to primary school teachers, and they were really like, I don't like games because all my students are not easy to interact with. And they were really very resistant. And I made them design their own game in school for being on time, or ask questions, or go to the toilet, or find your right space. And then at the end of the lesson, they said, so Ellis, how are you going to make this game happen in my school? So they were very much leaning forward at the end of that workshop.
Interesting. So then that goes back into really breaking these ideas we have about play, like the fear of play, and play can only be super, you know, like this extreme experience where everybody's happy and blah, blah, blah. It's not associated to other things like you were now saying.
No, and that's all the stigmas we need to tick mark, like this is a stick. And one big one is also addiction, that people feel like once I start playing I cannot stop playing. But I think it's also important to tell people that you have your own autonomy, and the game is subjective to that. And it's not taking over you. And we game designers don't want to. And I do know that some games have the intention to make you pay a lot, but you have to make sure that you are the one steering that wheel. So if you don't want to, you can let go, and you're not that weak that a game can control your life. And it's strange that a lot of people think the games can. But no, the games are not that strong.
Yeah, interesting. And I wonder also how game can be used to create empathy, in the sense of we're talking about development, and, you know, I am responsible for, you know, what I am doing, playing, etc. How does that then create empathy? How is a game used in relation to others, interactions?
Yeah, because many games are like simulations, and you can step in the shoes of someone else and then try to find out how would it be to be that person. And sometimes you can step in the shoes of the hero, of course, or be Lara Croft. But there are many games that you can experience how to be a pilot, and you can understand a different life, but you can escape your own life by understanding another person's life. But many games are also built around, for instance, refugees. There's one game, I don't know the name. It's beautiful. It's like you are only holding the phone as if you are receiving information of your loved one who is trying to escape the country. But you have choices. What do you answer to help and to support your loved one trying to escape? And it's so beautiful because you really feel your stomach and your lungs feeling like suffocating, like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't. Oh no, I hope she doesn't. And you have some sort of control by assisting her with what should you do. And you're also feeling the same, being powerless. You cannot do anything, and being a refugee is really tough. So those games are interesting experiences because we sort of have this, how do you say, masochistic desire. We sometimes we like to feel scared in a game, and we like to feel like looking at a thriller or horror movie. we like to be scared of our pantses. And in games we can also we like to learn how different situations. So many games allow us to be more empathic.
Then we're now touching, more other realms of play. How can we apply play in health or education or organizations, institutions, the corporate world? Can you give examples, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it is being used in health, for instance. Many apps are trying to help you change your lifestyle for a better way, and it can be very pinpointed to people with diabetes, or and also trying to help them register their information. So you have a motivational app that's helping you do self-report. Because the good thing is that we actually need more adaptive care as well, because many of the medicines are like sort of default setting, but some people find out, like for me it's better if I take it 1 hour after that, because then I have less problem with this. So then we learn, so scientists and the healthcare industry learns more about patients, what they need with their individual lifestyles, but also help the patients become more, not just a patient, but more self-efficacy on being in control of my health.
Yeah.
So these apps are being gamified to motivate you to be loyal to your app. And but also in organizations, they create team building game settings and challenges to learn things, or onboarding games, how to onboard in a company, to know what you should do and how to do it and where to do it. So you onboard and all these, because very often it's just a procedure of finding out all the things you have to learn, and they can be taught via a game. And also in some games, some companies, they are making content. It's part of the game of creating content about learnings inside the company to each other, to educate each other. You can have these trivia games installed, and have competitions, or so there are many ways to apply play. And it's not always you. Very often it's just you create a fun app or a playful app, and don't tell them it's a game, because some people have resistance indeed, but then they will find out, as I think that Facebook is gamified and LinkedIn is gamified. Because for some people, like you see the progress bar, like your profile is almost complete, and for some people that's a trigger to completion, and for some people not.
Okay, so how is competition important or effective for play, and how can it be healthy? Because I think, maybe it's a cliche, we live in a competitive world, true.
Yeah.
So yeah, how does competition help?
Competition, I think, is just an ingredient, like in the soup you put some more salt or less pepper. It's individual if you like it more less salty, or someone that likes it more sweet. And competition is also, it's I think it's just one of the ingredients, and you can spice it up or not. And it's important to look at because competition can be like one game we developed about security in companies, and then it would be so great that the winners are actually the cleaners, because they know all the floors, they know all the doors, they know all the windows. So they would be the heroes of this game. And in that sense, the competition, it might be very good to make the opposite hierarchy happen, and also make competitions temporarily, and then everyone can be a winner at a certain time or a certain moment. You have to, it's like an economy, you have to design the system very well, that everyone is engaged and everyone can win. And most of the board games actually have a very strong they have a level design or they have a design that you keep hope until the end of the game. Even with Monopoly, you feel like, oh, he's winning so bad because I have so little. But very often something can happen, and then suddenly the the game changes
Yeah.
completely, and
Yeah.
you have hope that that you might still win.
Yeah, it's funny how you said now the Monopoly, because I was reading in your book about Monopoly, and I was surprised to see that originally the game came because it was really to show how, you know, the difference between poor and rich and this inequality, etc. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, maybe, come to think about it. But I've never experienced the game as such. For me, it was more about, oh, you know, that thing of winning, and sometimes it even occurred to me, I don't think this is a fair game, you know.
No, but the game of money is not fair.
Yeah,
It really is not.
right. But
So
then,
in that
yeah,
sense,
yeah, continue.
yeah, so in that sense, Monopoly is originally developed to make that point, to show that richer get rich and poorer get poorer. And so, but then they made they saw that the game was fun to play, so they took away that seriousness, but made the game even more, yeah, sort of unfair in a way. But they made it a bit balanced, that you still feel like, I because you do it's funny, I heard one time that Monopoly is there is a championship of Monopoly, and I thought, like, but it's so much a game of good luck. But still, these games of good luck still have a strategy in there, and apparently, and I'm still surprised to see that, because I always feel like, yeah, if it's just about good luck, I like the game a bit less, because I feel like I want to be good or skilled for the playing that game. But,
yeah, there's this sense of control, right? I mean, we like to have control in our lives, whether in the safety of the game or not. I mean, just how it is. Okay, good. Very interesting. I am now going to jump into an article you wrote about game design and Qigong, that there's an overlap. And you wrote, and I'm quoting you, to create a good game, it requires a very delicate and more deep exploration to find the perfect balance. I love it. And then you create this, you know, this sort of overlap. So what can you say about it?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing Qigong for several years. And every time when I heard my teacher talk about Qigong and about learning my life, I was like, yeah, learning my body and how to balance it right. All the time I heard him talk like as if he's talking about my profession. and so often, and he didn't always understand, but so often there are parallels in how indeed we learn to balance things in a better way, and how we learn to balance by playing, by interacting, or by making an intervention. And that can be gravity, or it can be a muscle, or it can be your weight. And so you're always interacting as if my body is a toy to be played with and to be explored. And and I really, it's so funny. He might laugh at me saying this, because I think he more and more also understands what I mean when I say, yeah, you talk about play.
Interesting.
And
and also the qualities that are kind of similar to it that we were just now talking about: empathy, control, I guess, all those qualities of the body that are brought to both worlds.
And the environment, like when there is wind or there's no wind or there's sound, how that impacts your body. So the circumstances or the situation you're playing your game or you're practicing your Qigong has so much influence, and it's really about making energy move. And I have been very long, for a very long time, I was always looking at one player and one game, how they interact, because it was, I'm a little bit nerdy, so I like to simplify things. So I have been looking at it like that, very much like the game system and the player, how they interact. But recent years, I really discovered that the game can be another person, how you interact with each other and how you play. And other players are actually part of your game. So they make the game richer and better.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's yeah, the complexity level goes higher, but also more logical to look at
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
in that way.
What qualities can we bring ourselves so that we are more immersed in a game?
Yeah. Well, actually, then it's the other way around. What requirements are needed to engage fully? Then we have to make sure that we, when we enter the magic circle, or when the magic circle happens, that we feel safe, and that we know that we are safe and will be safe. So that's sort of like an agreement you do with the others or what. But safety is very important. And but you know, if you see a cat play, that he feels safe, he's not on guard because there might be a dog around. As soon as there is a noise like a dog, you see that a cat will stop playing. So that's what I mean with being safe is very much a requirement for the environment. We have to make sure that we feel safe, and that we trust the game and the game rules, and that we feel free. So actually, that's an important thing. If we don't feel free, for instance, someone who really is addicted to a game, because he cannot stop playing the game because he doesn't want to, he's trying to escape real life, and he thinks he can escape real life in a game, so he doesn't want to stop playing the game. He actually is not anymore playing a game because he's unfree.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a chore and a task, and there's no freedom, and you can see someone being unfree. And that's what is so important, that you are always free to interact or to play, and you feel safe and you feel connected and you trust the surroundings and the conditions. Then we have optimal engagement.
Interesting. I see here another bridge with Qigong, with the mindfulness of Qigong. Like, you're not trying to achieve a posture or a certain, physical quality or trying to escape anything. You're just in that flow and receiving and engaging with. Yeah.
And it's so interesting to indeed, you'll be challenged the moment you feel like I'm in the perfect position, perfect posture, and then you have to say, is it? You can never get fixed. You always have to continue.
Exactly. We talked about the fear of play, but are there myths around play? These preconceived ideas about play, besides, well, we did touch upon fear, but maybe other things you might think of.
Yeah, the negative myths are indeed addiction and violence. And losing yourself in a game. But the positive myth, that's a good question. Well, it's interesting that also in my book there's one chapter of this guy who was doing the championship of a war game, and he was training hours and hours and hours, and he was so good inside the game, and it was a really complex game system, that he felt that he could predict his opponent's situation. And then he went outside and he felt the same about traffic. So he was driving a car and he thought he could predict the traffic, because he was so much ahead of the game in that sense, that he really got confident in that. And then he made almost a mistake, and he realized, oh my God, I have to let go of my confidence of being able to predict the future, because I cannot. But sometimes you feel like you're in a flow, and then you feel like, I know exactly what to do next. And so we do want to be in that flow, and a game is a perfect situation to allow you to be in a flow or get in a flow. But then again, we have to also step outside of the magic circle in real life.
So what would be the future of play? Or what do you see?
what is in the news the last few weeks, but actually already for months, it has been in the news, the metaverse. that
Oh, yes.
there will be a digital world, and they say that we will be playing games with each other inside this digital world, and so it is being talked about in the game industry as the future. But I actually I have no clue how it will really work. But in my ideal world, it will be that we will not be afraid of playing games, but we will know what role we play. And I also hope in an ideal world that we know that we, like for in politics, we feel like we are being played in society and in politics, that we feel like there's, or like in recycling, we feel like what's the use of me recycling my garbage because no one else is and the big companies are not. I think we as an individual have more power than we know about our own lives. I hope, I wish.
Yeah.
And I hope that we will feel a player in our own game, and that we will make the new democracy happen.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. And hopefully it will also include others. So, right? I mean, that's individual
together in communities.
And then you see how much power you have as a community. What game would you advise everyone to have in their living rooms or maybe in their phones?
Oh, that's a good question. I wouldn't know. Well, actually, I like the game Set, which is a card game.
Okay.
But I think it's about flexibility and neuroplasticity. You have to. So one card has 4 conditions. There's an amount, a size, a shape, and a color. So it's very simple.
Okay.
And then you make a set of 3 cards, and then all these four features of one card have to be all similar for all 3 or diverse for all 3.
Okay.
So that's all. And then you can see set. So you put 9 cards on the table, and you recognize 3 cards forming a shape, a set, because they have the same shape, same color, same amount, and same filling.
Okay.
And then they form a set.
Okay.
And it's very it's a brain training exercise, but it's also very much fun to play with others. And you can do team building play and
nice.
collective play. There are many variations on playing Set.
Okay. So I'm gonna look it up.
Go play Set.
Yeah, go play Set. Love it.
But it's also very frustrating in a way. So that's it's like you hear people yell like, "This is a set." Oh no, it's not. Oh yes, this is. Oh no, it's not, because every 2 cards with the 3rd card are every 2 cards create almost a set with a 3rd card, but you have to find the 3rd specific card.
Okay, now I'm curious.
So
I'm gonna have to find it out. I do see play and movement really tied together, and we talked about Qigong, and so I would, I usually ask this: why is movement your constant?
Because movement is interaction. Because action and interaction, and I like movement between people, and that can be like us now talking. So we spoke about so many things in 1 hour time. And that's movement, I think. So, and I hope that that's anyone who's listening, his brain or her brain will be moving, and I hope they are walking while doing it, because I think activity makes our knowledge become bigger and better, so we all can share knowledge. I think that's movement.
Yeah, thank you. So
thank you.
So we can I'll definitely recommend this book. It's a really it's fantastic. I've done it, I've written on it, but I will have to read it again. And where can we can buy it online, right?
Actually, you have to buy it via me.
Okay.
Because online was a bit I'm just too clumsy.
Sure, no problem.
So it's no longer for sale online, but please. It's in Holland. It's at bol.com, still for sale, and it's in Dutch available, in Indonesian, and soon in Persian language.
Oh, I love it.
And there's a audio book in Dutch.
Okay.
And so all of those are available online and in Holland, but internationally you have to
Go through
contact
you.
me personally.
Okay, I will leave that note on the description of the episode and also on the channel so that people can access the book. And where can people find you or contact you if they, you know, want your service or work with you?
Yeah, if they have any question after this, listening to all this, they can ask. They can contact me via ellisinwonderland.nl.
Yes, perfect. I love that. elicitwonderland.nl.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you would like to share, to leave here? A note, a thought?
I think I'll be on my bike later and I'll be like, now I know what I wanted to share. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Lovely.
As always, it's a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you. For me, same here.